People spend their entire lives obsessing over this little word, perfection. What a joke. They wake up every morning, look in the mirror, and see all the things they hate about themselves. They think, if only I could fix this, if only I could change that, then maybe, just maybe, I'd be perfect. And so they set off on this endless, pointless journey, convinced that if they just work hard enough, if they just sacrifice enough, they'll finally reach that shining, unattainable goal. But let me tell you something, and listen closely because this is important. Perfection doesn't exist. It's a ghost, a shadow, a mirage that dances just out of reach. No matter how hard you chase it, no matter how fast you run, it always slips through your fingers. And the more you try to grab hold of it, the more it taunts you, laughs at you, and pushes you further into the madness. You see, this whole idea of perfection is nothing more than a lie we've been sold. A big, fat, ugly lie. It's this idea that if we can just smooth out every wrinkle, hide every flaw, and become this perfect little version of ourselves, then suddenly everything will be okay. We'll be loved, admired, accepted. But the truth is, perfection is nothing more than a cage, a prison made of our own insecurities. It's a cruel joke. And the punchline is that nobody, and I mean nobody, ever reaches it. Yet here we are, chasing it like it's the answer to all our problems. People lose themselves in this pursuit. They sacrifice their happiness, their authenticity, their very soul, all for the chance to be something they can never be. They work themselves to the bone, bleed themselves dry, just to try and live up to some impossible standard. And do you know what happens when they get close? When they think they've finally achieved it? The goalposts move. The standards change. What was perfect yesterday isn't good enough today, and so the chase begins again, more desperate, more frantic, more hopeless than before. It's an endless loop, a cycle of suffering that never ends. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips away. And that's the real tragedy, isn't it? The world convinces you that you need to be perfect, to be happy, to be loved, to be worthy. But the moment you buy into that lie, you've already lost. Because you'll never be satisfied. You'll never be at peace. You'll always be reaching, always striving, always wanting more, and it will never, ever be enough. It's madness, pure and simple. A madness that's infected us all, turning us into slaves to an idea that was never real to begin with. So the question is, why do we do it? Why do we keep chasing something that doesn't exist? Because deep down, we're afraid. We're afraid that if we stop chasing, if we stop pretending, we'll have to face the truth that we're not perfect, that we're flawed, broken, and human. And that's the scariest thing of all, isn't it? Admitting that we're not what we want to be, that we'll never be what we think we should be. But maybe, just maybe, that's okay. Maybe the real insanity isn't in our flaws, but in this desperate, endless chase to escape them. You know what's funny? We spend so much time hiding our flaws, pretending they don't exist, that we forget they're the best parts of us. Yeah, I said it. The best parts. Those little cracks, those scars, those messy, imperfect bits that you're so desperate to cover up. They're the things that make you, you. You want to know what's really crazy? It's the fact that we've all been brainwashed into thinking that our flaws are weaknesses, that there's something to be ashamed of, something to hide. But the truth is, they're our greatest strengths, our most powerful weapons, if only we'd learn to embrace them. Think about it. Every scar tells a story. Every wrinkle holds a memory. Every imperfection is a reminder that you've lived, that you've felt, that you've experienced something real. It's those imperfections that give you depth, that make you interesting, that make you human. Perfection? It's flat, one-dimensional, boring. But flaws? Flaws are where the magic happens. Flaws are where you find character, where you find strength, where you find the very things that make you unique. You know, I've seen people go to incredible lengths to hide their flaws. Plastic surgeries, makeup, filters, pretending to be someone they're not. All just to present this perfect little version of themselves to the world. But do you know what's behind all that? Fear. Fear of being seen for who they really are. Fear of being rejected. Fear of being vulnerable. And that fear, that desperate need to be perfect, is what keeps them trapped. They'll never be free until they realize that their flaws aren't something to be hidden. They're something to be celebrated. Because here's the thing, when you embrace your flaws, when you wear them like armor, something incredible happens. You stop caring about what other people think. You stop trying to fit into a mold that was never made for you. You stop being a prisoner to other people's expectations. And in that moment, you become something powerful, something unstoppable, because you're not pretending anymore. You're not hiding. You're just being you, flaws and all. And do you know what's even crazier? When you accept your flaws, you start to see them differently. They're not weaknesses. They're strengths. They're not things to be ashamed of. They're things to be proud of. They're proof that you've been through hell and come out the other side. They're reminders that you've fallen, but you've gotten back up, that you've failed, but you've kept going. They're the things that make you resilient, that make you strong, that make you real. So why hide them? Why pretend to be something you're not? Why chase this illusion of perfection when you could be something so much more interesting, so much more authentic, so much more human? You see, that's the real beauty of it all. We spend our lives trying to be perfect, but it's our imperfections that make us who we are. And once you understand that, once you really let that sink in, you realize that you don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You just need to be yourself. And that, my friends, is the greatest strength of all. You want to know the funniest thing about this little game we play? The way we scramble to fit in, to blend in, to make ourselves look just like everyone else. It's a joke, really. The world tells you that you need to conform, that you need to be like everybody else if you want to be accepted, if you want to be loved, if you want to matter. And so we obey like good little sheep, shaping ourselves into these perfect little copies, never daring to stand out, never daring to be different. But here's the punchline, the big cosmic joke. Every single one of us is pretending. Every single one. We're all wearing masks, hiding behind this false image of who we think we should be. And in the process, we're losing the very things that make us unique, that make us special. You see, society doesn't want you to be different. It doesn't want you to be authentic. No. It wants you to be predictable, manageable, easy to understand. It wants you to fit neatly into a box, to follow the rules, to do what you're told. And the moment you step outside of that box, well, that's when they come for you, isn't it? That's when they start whispering about how you don't belong, how you're not good enough, how you're flawed, broken, wrong. And so, out of fear, out of desperation, we shrink ourselves down. We cut away the parts that don't fit. We silence our voices, and we bury our true selves deep down, where nobody can see them, all so that we can belong, all so that we can be perfect. But here's the dirty little secret they don't want you to know. Conformity is the real madness. It's the real insanity. Because when you conform, when you force yourself to be like everyone else, you're not living your life. You're living their life. You're giving up your dreams, your passions, your quirks, your individuality, just to fit into a world that doesn't even care about you. You're trading your authenticity for acceptance, your freedom for a false sense of belonging. And what do you get in return? A life that isn't yours, a life that's empty, shallow, meaningless. We all spend so much time trying to be like everyone else, but in doing so, we forget who we really are. We forget that the things that make us different, the things that make us weird, the things that make us stand out, those are our greatest strengths. Those are the things that make us powerful, but we hide them away, cover them up, and pretend to be something we're not, just to feel like we belong. And for what? To live a life that's not even ours? To be part of a system that doesn't care about us? It's madness, pure and simple. The real challenge, the real act of courage, is to be yourself in a world that's constantly trying to make you into something else. To stand up and say, this is who I am, flaws and all, and I'm not going to change just to fit into your little box. That's power. That's freedom. But it's terrifying, isn't it? Because the moment you stop pretending, the moment you let go of the need to fit in, you have to face the truth about who you really are. And that's the scariest thing of all. Chaos gets a bad rap. People talk about it like it's this terrible, dangerous thing, something to be avoided at all costs. But I've always had a bit of a soft spot for chaos. Because you see, chaos is honest. It doesn't pretend to be something it's not. It doesn't follow the rules, doesn't care about your expectations, doesn't try to fit into your neat little boxes. Chaos just is. And that's why it's so powerful, so liberating. Because when you embrace chaos, you're not trying to control everything. You're not trying to force things to be a certain way. You're just letting them be what they are. You're letting life be what it is. Unpredictable, messy, and beautifully imperfect. People spend their entire lives trying to control everything around them. They want order, they want predictability, they want things to make sense. But the world doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. It's messy, it's chaotic, it's full of surprises, and no matter how hard you try, you can't change that. You can't force the universe to bend to your will. And the more you try, the more you fight against the chaos, the more you drive yourself mad. It's like trying to hold back the ocean with your bare hands. It's impossible. And the harder you try, the more you drown. But when you let go, when you stop trying to control everything, something incredible happens. You start to see the beauty in the chaos. You start to see that life isn't about being perfect, about having everything figured out, about fitting into some predetermined mold. Life is about the unexpected moments, the twists and turns, the ups and downs. It's about the things that don't make sense, the things that go wrong, the things that break and shatter and fall apart. Because those are the moments that shape us, that teach us, that force us to grow. And that's where you find freedom in the chaos. When you stop trying to be perfect, when you stop trying to control everything, when you stop caring about what other people think, you start to see the world for what it really is. You start to see yourself for who you really are. And suddenly, you're not afraid anymore. You're not trapped. You're not a prisoner to your fears, your insecurities, your need for approval. You're free to be whoever you want to be, flaws and all. Chaos isn't something to be feared. It's something to be embraced. Because in chaos, there are no rules, no limitations, no expectations. You can be messy, you can be imperfect, you can be real. And that's where you find your true strength. That's where you find your power. Not in pretending to be perfect, but in embracing the chaos, in letting go of the need to control, in allowing yourself to be exactly who you are, in all your flawed, beautiful, chaotic glory. So let the world be chaotic. Let life be unpredictable. Let yourself be imperfect, because that's where you'll find the freedom you've been searching for. That's where you'll find the strength to be who you really are. And that, my friends, is something far more powerful than perfection could ever hope to be. You want to know something funny? We spend so much time, so much energy trying to hide the very things that make us beautiful. We're constantly told that perfection is the ultimate goal, that we should strive to be flawless, to be without blemish, without error, without fault. But what if I told you that's the greatest lie of all? What if I told you that the very things you're trying to hide, the very things you're ashamed of, the very things you wish you could change, are the things that make you truly, deeply, undeniably beautiful? Think about it for a moment. When you look at a piece of art, do you admire it because it's perfect? Because every line is straight, every color is flawless, every detail is exactly as it should be? Of course not. You admire it because it's unique, because it has character, because it's unlike anything else you've ever seen. You're drawn to the imperfections, the little quirks, the mistakes that somehow make it feel real, make it feel alive. It's the cracks, the rough edges, the smudges that tell a story, that show you that someone poured their heart and soul into it. And that's where the beauty lies, not in the perfection, but in the imperfection. But we forget that, don't we? We look at ourselves and all we see are the flaws. We see the scars, the wrinkles, the blemishes, and we think, if only I could get rid of this, if only I could fix that, then I'd be beautiful. We cover ourselves in makeup, hide behind filters, spend endless hours trying to change the way we look, the way we feel, the way we are, all in the pursuit of some impossible standard of beauty that doesn't even exist. And in doing so, we strip away everything that makes us unique, everything that makes us interesting, everything that makes us us. You want to know what real beauty is? It's not the airbrushed, picture-perfect images you see in magazines or on social media. It's not the flawless skin, the perfect body, the symmetrical features. Real beauty is raw. It's unfiltered. It's honest. It's the way your eyes crinkle when you laugh, the way your hair falls messily around your face when you wake up in the morning, the way your voice cracks when you're nervous, the way your heart races when you're excited. Real beauty is found in the moments when you're not trying to be anything other than yourself, when you're not pretending, when you're just living, breathing, feeling. And that's the greatest tragedy of all, isn't it? We spend our whole lives trying to be something we're not, trying to live up to this idea of perfection. And in the process, we miss out on the real beauty that's right in front of us. We're so focused on what we think we should be that we forget to appreciate what we already are. We forget that it's the imperfections that make us human, that make us relatable, that make us beautiful. Think about the people you love the most in your life. Is it their perfection that draws you to them? Is it their flawless skin, their perfect smile, their impeccable style? Or is it the little things, the quirks, the flaws, the imperfections that make them who they are? Maybe it's the way they laugh a little too loud, or the way they stumble over their words when they're excited, or the way they always manage to spill something on themselves every time they eat. It's the imperfections that make them real, that make them relatable, that make them lovable. And if that's true for them, then why can't it be true for you? Why do we believe that we have to be perfect to be loved, to be accepted, to be worthy? Why do we think that we have to hide our flaws, that we have to pretend to be something we're not? The truth is, the more we try to be perfect, the more we distance ourselves from who we really are. We put up walls, we hide behind masks, we pretend to be something we're not, and in doing so, we push people away. Because deep down, we're all just looking for connection, for authenticity, for someone who's willing to be real with us. And you can't find that in perfection. You can only find it in the messy, imperfect, beautiful reality of who you truly are. There's a Japanese art form called kintsugi. Maybe you've heard of it. It's the practice of taking broken pottery and mending it with gold. The cracks, the fractures, the imperfections, they're not hidden, they're highlighted. They become a part of the piece's history, a part of its story, and in doing so, they make it more valuable, more beautiful, more unique. That's what we should be doing with ourselves. Instead of hiding our flaws, we should be embracing them, celebrating them, allowing them to be a part of our story. Because those cracks, those scars, those imperfections, they're what make us who we are. They're what make us beautiful. So why spend your life chasing perfection when you could be something far more interesting? Why waste your time trying to be flawless when you could be real, when you could be authentic, when you could be human? There's a kind of strength, a kind of power that comes from embracing your imperfections. When you stop hiding, when you stop pretending, when you let yourself be seen for who you really are, flaws and all, you become something extraordinary. You become someone who's not afraid to be vulnerable. Someone who's not afraid to be different, someone who's not afraid to be themselves. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. It's about letting go of this impossible standard, this illusion that we have to be something we're not, and allowing ourselves to be exactly who we are. It's about standing in front of the world with all your flaws, all your scars, all your imperfections, and saying, "This is me, take it or leave it." Because that's where true beauty lies, not in the absence of flaws, but in the courage to embrace them. So stop chasing perfection. Stop trying to be something you're not. Stop hiding behind a mask, pretending to be flawless. Because the world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more real people, more authentic people, more people who are willing to show up as they are, imperfections and all. That's where the magic happens. That's where the beauty is. And that, my friends, is something that perfection could never hope to achieve.